Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of the video without any interruption, and then I'll go back, hit rewind, and talk about things that I think that were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
I'm Captain Dan Stewart with the Office of Media Relations. We want to share with you some information on a recent shooting involving one of our officers. In the evening hours of Saturday, May 8th, dispatch received a call to a residence in the 4000 block of Northwest 33rd.
Oklahoma City 911.
Yeah, there's a guy laying in the yard at Northwest 33rd.
And is this a neighbor, or do you know the person, or?
He's at his grandpa's house, and his grandpa has a VPO against him, and I think he must be hiring a kite because he's out there. He stared at the clouds forever.
Officer Daniel Lopez, who is a member of the crisis intervention team, was dispatched and arrived around 7:50 p.m. and began interacting with the subject, Daniel Hobbs.
What's going on? What are you looking at? You trying to get the sky to come down?
Yeah, look at it.
Well,
You just let go up?
huh?
Just let go up?
We don't have any control over that, man. What's going on today?
I'm looking at the sky.
Looking at the sky?
What's going on?
Oh, okay. Well, you're looking directly up at the sky, trying to get it to come down,
look at the sky.
which is pretty abnormal to me. So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
It is abnormal for the sky to go up.
You taking anything today, man?
No, I didn't.
You taking any meds?
No, I didn't.
No? You have any mental health issues?
Fading out. Yeah,
Network
Okay.
333018.
Hey, listen, do you have anything?
huh?
Has the doctor ever told you have anything?
Yeah, but this is a mental health issue.
Okay, what did the doctor
I've
say you
never
have?
seen Hobbs do that.
Listen to me, okay? What did the doctor say you have? Schizophrenia. Okay. Did they prescribe medication? Have you been taking the medication? Have you?
Yeah,
How often are you supposed to take it? How often are you supposed to take it?
3 months. 3 months piece. I take a shot.
Every 3 months you're supposed to
Yes.
take a shot? Okay. When's the last time you took a shot?
3 months ago.
So sounds like you're about due for another shot then, right?
No.
No? You take it every 3 months. The last time you took it was 3 months ago.
I go to the doctor to get my shot. I don't go to lockups to get shots. I go to the doctor.
Okay. Hey, do you have any weapons on you? Anything I should know about?
No.
Can I search you and make sure?
For what? I can show you.
Hey, no, don't. I don't want you. Hey, listen, don't reach in your pockets. I don't want you reaching in your pockets. Okay, I want to make sure you don't have any weapons. Okay, I don't want you reaching in your pockets though.
Okay.
Okay. So right now I'm just gonna search for weapons. Hey, right now I'm just gonna search you for weapons. That's it. Okay. So get your hands behind your back. Hey,
Hands behind my back, you search me for weapons?
hey,
What
stop.
if-
Stop.
I didn't do nothing to you.
Stop. Stop.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Stop.
I've done
Get
nothing
your hands
wrong.
behind your back. Get your
You're
hands
trying to
behind your back.
handcuff me when I haven't done nothing wrong.
No, I'm trying to get
looking
your
at
hands
the
behind your
clouds.
back. Get your hands behind your
You're
back.
handcuffing me for looking at the
Hey,
fucking
get
clouds.
your hands behind your back.
You can't do that. That's against the law.
Okay.
That's against the law.
I'm trying to search you.
I got a wallet right there.
Stop.
You see
Stop.
what I got?
Get your hands behind. Don't
I got
step
a
up
wallet.
on me.
I got a wallet.
Get your hands behind your
Sir,
back.
I got a wallet.
Get your hands behind your
Sir,
back.
I
I'm
got
not
a
going to tell you
wallet.
again. Get your
I
hands
got
behind
a
your back.
wallet. No, what do you want?
Get
The
your
wallet's
hands
right there. Get it. Get the fucking wallet.
Get your hands behind your back.
What do you want to handcuff me for? Fucking wallet, you dumbass! You motherfucker!
Two separate witnesses reported seeing the officer and the subject struggling over what they believed to be the officer's gun. During the struggle, the suspect gained control of the officer's taser. Shortly before the shooting, a neighbor began to film, capturing the shooting on video. Daniel Hobbs was transported to a local hospital where he later died from his injuries. Officer Lopez did not receive any injuries which required treatment. That despite the initial information regarding a VPO, it does not appear a VPO was actually in place. This investigation is in the early stages and will take time to complete. The Oklahoma City Police Department conducts thorough investigations of all officer-involved shootings and uses of force. The completed criminal investigation will be presented to the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office for final review to ensure the officer's actions are in accordance with Oklahoma state law. An investigation will also be conducted to determine if the tactics and interactions used by this officer are consistent with our department's training and mission.
All right, let's get into it.
I'm Captain Dan Stewart with the Office.
Which is pretty abnormal.
So we'll come back to the initial interaction stuff later. So he goes to search the guy, and the guy becomes combative with him, and a fight breaks out. It goes to the ground, and we don't get to see much because they are literally chest to chest pretty much during this altercation. Now, it does appear from this angle you can tell it looks like the officer is on the ground. He's somewhat on his side. You can see the grass, the house, and the trees above him. So the suspect here is kind of getting a sort of a dominant position over this officer.
What? You dumbass! You motherfucker!
Then he gets him rolled over. Now at that point,
You motherfucker!
you see his arm reaching up to the officer's duty belt. So he, at this point, I believe, is grabbing at the officer's taser. And it comes out, and you can see that he has it in his hand. The officer has his forearm pressed down on top of his hand and has part of his forearm in this guy's throat. At this point, him having the taser out, the officer is at risk of succumbing to the impact of a taser and becoming completely subdued, just the same as if the officer could use the taser on a person and completely subdue them. So if that were to happen, this officer would lose complete control over his body, and he would not be able to resist any further if this taser was used against him. And then this guy, who we all know is crazy, who admitted staring at the clouds, trying to bring the clouds down or the sky down, crazy boy could have grabbed his gun out of his holster and killed him with it. So although this guy has a less than lethal tool, he has the ability to incapacitate the officer and withdraw his lethal weapon and use it against him. If the officer is incapacitated with the taser, he has no ability to defend himself any further. And this is in all taser training. It's even in pepper spray training. If you are being incapacitated with your less lethal tools, and the suspect will be able to gain control over you and get your weapon, well, that's a deadly force encounter. So this guy grabbing the officer's taser off his belt, that in and of itself is a deadly force incident. It's a deadly force act. An officer who has gone through taser training and has taken an exposure from a taser is able to testify that, yes, I've experienced an exposure to a taser. I know that I am unable to physically resist it. It locks my body up. I have absolutely no control over my body when a taser is deployed on me. All officers who go through that training get exposed to a taser like that for, not just for instances like this, but to back up incidences like this where if the taser is taken away from you, well, you've already experienced what that taser does. You know you cannot fight through that. Once it's deployed on you, that's it. You're at the mercy of the person pulling the trigger. If they want to keep pulling that trigger, they're going to lock your body up for however long they want to keep pulling that trigger until they stop doing it. And while they're pulling that trigger on that taser, they can start taking your gun off your belt. They can pull a knife out and start stabbing you in the throat. Whatever. So, him pulling the taser off the belt turned this into a deadly physical force encounter. Even though what he grabbed was a less than lethal option or less than lethal tool, just him grabbing it and trying to utilize it just made this whole incident turn into a deadly force encounter. Now that is hard for uneducated and untrained people to fully understand, and they'll want to fight against this idea, but you can't fight logic. If a taser can render you incapacitated, that's a problem, especially if you're the one who has the gun on you. So all taser training, all less lethal training has it in there that if someone gets that weapon from you and tries to use it against you to incapacitate you with it, you're cleared hot to use deadly physical force. So the camera turns off. And it looks like maybe his radio has fallen out. We can see what looks to be the lapel mic cord right here. And this looks like the body of the radio right there, possibly. So some of his equipment is coming off of his belt. More than just his taser coming off of his belt. Now his communications is coming off of his belt. So I don't know any more details about the radio or anything like that, but usually it's the other way around. Usually it's the microphone part of the lapel mic coming off of your body, not the whole entire radio. But that can happen, especially if you have an open top radio pouch that doesn't have something to secure the radio in place. But this is one of the last images that we see from the camera. During the struggle, a button was pressed on the camera and it turned off. I don't know what camera the officer is using, but it's possible for that to happen. Depending on the manufacturer, it may have a stop button on the side of the camera. And once you press that stop button, it can be easy to turn off. The Axon cameras, you have to hold the event button down for a few seconds to make it turn off. That makes it more difficult to inadvertently turn the camera off, but it doesn't make it impossible. I've had my body camera turn off before when I've had my rifle out, and when I bring in the rifle up to my torso, just bringing it in close to my body, just the rifle pressing into my body camera, turn the camera off. So it's not like it's impossible once you turn the camera on for it to be accidentally turned off. Now some people will, of course, it's always the uneducated, untrained, police-hating assholes who'll say this shit. But, some people are like, oh, he purposely turned the camera off, blah, 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 blah. No, he did not purposely turn this camera off. Things happen. And during a struggle, buttons can be inadvertently pressed on it. Not by fingers, but by, forearms and elbows. Just the fabric of his shirt being twisted in and maybe an ink pen pressing into the side of the camera where the stop button's located at. You don't know. So it's 100% plausible that these things can occur.
Two separate witnesses reported during the struggle began to film, capturing the shooting on video.
So they are on the ground, right over in here, and I wish it was zoomed in a little bit closer at the very beginning, but it eventually zooms in. So they are entangled, and he is firing from something of a retention right here. I'll back it up just a little bit more.
And to film, capturing the shooting on video.
So they're both laying on the ground. They're entangled. He was completely horizontal. He's fired and he's gotten himself out from under the guy. He is now somewhat in a seated kind of position. He fires enough times to stop the threat. This guy is no longer interested in fighting him. He's obviously feeling the effects of being shot and has lost all interest in fighting this officer.
Daniel Hobbs.
You can see his microphone is still attached to his body. You can actually see the cord stretching out to here. So his radio is still over, maybe under the guy or off to the side somewhere over here. So that's pretty good. That makes me think this guy has one of those mic loops on. It's attached to his vest and it's keeping the lapel mic in place. So that's a pretty good product. Keeping the microphone in place. He just now needs to find something to be able to keep his radio on his belt.
Was transported to a local hospital where he later died from his injuries.
You can still see the cord being stretched out here.
Officer Lopez did not receive any injuries which required treatment. That despite the initial information regarding a VPO, it does not appear a VPO was actually in place. This investigation is in the early stages and will take time to complete. The Oklahoma City Police Department conducts thorough investigations of all officer-involved shootings and uses of force.
So it looks like his hands are behind his back. It did appear as though the camera recording had been spliced and then cut to here. So it does appear as though he's cuffed the guy. That's a pretty common thing to see, and it's something that I'd always recommend. Pistol ammunition is not always the greatest. Sometimes people can still get back up and keep fighting after being shot with pistol. So cuffing people after they've been shot is an acceptable thing, because just because right there in that moment they're not moving around, it doesn't mean that 2 minutes from now they can't get back up and start fighting again. And if they do, then it's a whole lot harder for a person to fight you when their hands are cuffed behind their back. There's a famous case out of Miami from back in the 80s between the FBI and a couple of bank robbers. These bank robbers, they took multiple rounds. One of them, he took multiple. One guy, he took a shot to the head. It temporarily knocked him unconscious, and he was able to get back up, get back in the fight, and try to drive off in another vehicle. His partner got shot multiple times throughout the gunfight. In the very beginning stage of the gunfight, he took a round through the side of his chest. The round landed within his heart area. It was a lethal hit that he was going to die from. It just did not immediately kill him right then and there. And he was able to stay in the fight and kill 2 FBI agents and seriously wound some others before he finally went down after all those multiple gunshots. So cuffing people after they've been shot is not uncommon, and it's something that I recommend because when you're dealing with pistol ammunition, it sucks. They're starting to do medical care on this guy. Of course, we see this guy run back to get something out of the vehicle and bring it back. So I've talked about medical kits before. Medical gear should be what I call your first line gear and then your second line gear. First line medical gear should be stuff that is on you, and that should be stuff that is intended for you and or your partner. Your second line gear is going to be your supplemental medical gear that you keep in the vehicle that you can use to supplement that first line gear that was on you that you've already started to use, and can also be used for other people who are not your family or your team. As far as the interaction goes with this guy, he's obviously crazy. He's got some mental health issues. He was admittedly, by his own words, staring at the sky, trying to bring it down. This is mental health is one of those issues where it is obviously an issue. There are people with lots of mental problems out there. The police tend to kind of be this catch-all kind of agency, I guess you could say. They're like the Band-Aid. Someone needs something, they call the police. I don't necessarily think that's the greatest response. I think municipalities should be able to tell people, we're not coming out for that. If some person calls 911 and says they want a police officer because there's a ghost in their house, I don't think the police need to respond to that house. I really don't. I think the dispatcher should say, we don't handle that. You call someone else and not even send an officer. I think that's a waste of resources. I mean, you're not going to call the fire department when there's a burglar, right? The fire department is going to say no to that. So I think the police department should say no to certain things. When it comes to, and I'm 100% pro police and everything. Obviously, I'm not a crazy leftist. I don't necessarily think that having social workers go to everything is the end all be all kind of solution to things. But I would even argue that if social workers were going out, they're still going to try and call the police because they're not going to be able to get anywhere with what they're doing. And even in those instances, I just think the police should say, no, we're not going out. The minute this person starts committing a crime, he starts hurting someone, then call us. But, this dude being batshit crazy and staring at the sky, the hell with him. Let him stare at the sky. Who cares? And, I would also argue that because people want to say, always calling the police, and the police are always shooting and killing people, mental health issues. No, it's not like the police just show up and they're like, hey, this guy's got some mental health issues. Let's shoot him. No, obviously that shit is not fucking happening. These batshit crazy people are fighting the police, and it ends up going into that. And so I would argue that if we were having firefighters and EMTs respond to these calls, then we would see the firefighters and EMTs fighting these people, because that's just how it would inevitably turn out. And if our EMTs and firefighters were armed, then we would see firefighters and EMTs shooting these people when these people start fighting them and trying to hurt them. So it's not like it's just the police that are going out and doing this because the police are bad, blah, blah, blah. It's because the police are a Band-Aid, so to speak. When there's no specific entity to call. It's always like the police are called to go try and solve some problem. And it's just by happenstance that the police go to these things, and because the police are armed and these people try to fight and then they try to take weapons off their belts, etc., it ends up sometimes, not always, but sometimes turning into a deadly force encounter. And if we today stop sending police to these calls involving mental health stuff, then we would start seeing whoever else goes to these calls, they're going to start fighting with these people. Not much else to say. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.